Yeah, no, I was pretty crestfallen when I heard about Arthur Feast today, right? He had done such a great job to get through that match yesterday and,
Exact
and
back.
had injury, which is so tough to read because he did such a nice job yesterday, and there's so much passion.
The most revealing thing about Arthur Phil's 9-match winning streak on clay right now is not the results. It's the serve. A 21-year-old who spent 8 months unable to touch a racket, who had a stress fracture in his back diagnosed at Roland Garros, came back with an 86% first serve percentage in the Madrid quarterfinal. That is not confidence. That is architecture. And it didn't happen by accident. If your reaction is he's just in form, streaks happen. That's fair. Hot runs exist. But this one has a paper trail. Technical adjustments he made during the injury layoff that he described in detail at press conferences, a coaching change that happened in February, and a specific mechanical shift that observers noticed at Indian Wells before anyone was calling it a streak. This is documented. Let's go through it. Before the injury, Phils was one of the most physically explosive players on tour. The system was simple: big serve, large forehand swing generating heavy topspin, and burst speed to get to rally balls earlier than opponents expected. He reached no 14 in the world on that engine. The problem was structural. A large forehand takeback means the racket travels a longer arc before contact. On faster incoming balls, especially on hard courts, that arc puts you in trouble. You contact the ball slightly behind your body, lose court position, and the rally becomes defensive when it should be offensive. On clay, slower bounce, less of an issue. On hard courts, consistently a vulnerability. And then came Roland Garros 2025. Second round win, third round withdrawal, a back stress fracture he'd been carrying for weeks. Not hypothetically, not in a training block, at a grand slam in front of his home crowd. The fracture in his L5 vertebra, a back issue he'd had a version of since he was 15, finally forced to stop. A premature return attempt in Toronto. 2 matches, and then another shutdown. He didn't compete again until February 2026. 8 months, 6 of them without touching a racket. I don't know how I'm gonna be after, he said at Indian Wells when he came back. He won that press conference as cleanly as he won the match, because he did know. He'd spent 8 months making sure. Here's what changed. In Phil's own words from a March press conference, the forehand preparation is shorter. He described it this way: before, I had a big swing. You can produce a lot of power, a lot of spin, but when the guys play fast on the forehand, you take the ball a bit behind. Now with the shorter swing, I play much more ball in front of me. That's not a small adjustment. Shortening a forehand backswing is something coaches resist doing with established players, because it changes the feel of a shot that's already working. It requires thousands of reps to build new muscle memory from scratch. Phil's had 8 months. He used them. The result? His contact point moves forward. He controls the ball earlier, and on clay, where the higher bounce naturally invites attackers to move into the ball rather than wait for it. This is a different weapon than what he had before. Add to this a serve adjustment made to reduce spinal load, and you have a player who didn't just return. He returned re-engineered. This mirrors what happened when Andy Murray spent 8 months rebuilding after his 2018 hip surgery and came back to clay more comfortable at the net than at any point in the previous 5 years. The enforced absence forced a technical conversation Murray had been avoiding. The same pattern appeared when Stan Wawrinka returned from knee surgery in 2018 with a more compact serve motion he'd refined in physio sessions. In both cases, the injury didn't end the good version of the player. It delayed the better version. Within 2 years of his return, Murray won an ATP title. Within 3 years of his return, Wawrinka was knocking off top 10 players on clay again. Phil's is 21. He has had 8 months and a new coach. The trajectory is not subtle. And here's what nobody is connecting yet. The coaching change is not a footnote. In February 2026, Phil's brought Goran Ivanisevic onto his team, former Wimbledon champion. The man who rebuilt Novak Djokovic's serve at the age of 32 and turned it from a liability into a weapon that held up for another decade. Ivanisevic's specific coaching fingerprint is serve architecture, placement variety, motion efficiency, first serve percentage as a rally construction tool rather than an ace. Hunting lottery. Phil's serve pre-injury was capable but inconsistent, a second weapon rather than a first. In Madrid, facing Lehecka, he won 86% of first serve points and didn't face a single break point across 74 minutes. That number is not Phil's pre-injury number. That number is what Ivanisevic built into Djokovic between 2019 and 2023. He is doing it again, at 21, with a player whose forehand is already elite. Watch the moment in the Lehecka match after he went 0-4 down in the Miami semifinal earlier this season. He came back and won. That loss could have broken his momentum. Instead, after winning in Madrid, he said, "I don't like it when someone beats me soundly. I think about it a lot. That's not a comment about competitive spirit. That's a description of a player who treats losses as technical problems. It's the same cognitive style that defines Djokovic's longevity. Even Yevie coaches it explicitly. The ability to compartmentalize match emotion and convert the loss into a scouting report. Fils is 21. He is being taught to think like a 30-year-old champion. The on-court expression of that is serve +1 construction on breakpoints. Where a lesser player would go for the ace, Fils is now going for placement to create the forehand he trusts. Now here's the honest case against this thesis. Fils's 9-match winning streak on clay includes a favorable draw path. He hasn't faced Sinner or Alcaraz, the two players at the very top of clay dominance. Lehecka, Echeverry, Nava, quality opponents, but not the elite ceiling. There's a real argument that the shorter forehand swing, while better on faster incoming balls, sacrifices some of the heavy topspin that makes a clay player truly dominant in long rallies. Pre-injury Fils had a forehand that kicked opponents off the baseline. More compact version contacts the ball earlier and takes more pace off the top, which could leave him less equipped to win the grind points that decide clay majors. But here's why I still hold the position. 86% first serve percentage eliminates the scenario where the grind happens. If Fils is winning that many first serve points, the rally length he's operating in is shorter. He's not grinding, he's constructing. Now let's zoom out. What Fils represents in 2026 is something the app hasn't seen clearly since the emergence of Alcaraz in 2022. A player whose technical ceiling is still being discovered. Sinner's dominance is real and empirically earned. But Sinner reached his ceiling through extraordinary consistency. Fils is reaching toward his through reconstruction. Two different paths to the same territory. And there's one other player this connects to, Holger Rune, who is on the opposite arc right now. Talented, inconsistent, searching for the technical identity Fils just found. The contrast between those two storylines will define French and Nordic tennis content for the next 3 years. Now imagine this scenario. It's the second week of Roland Garros. Philippe Chatrier. Fils is seated somewhere between 15 and 20. He's played 6 matches on clay without losing a set. His opponent in the quarterfinal is Zverev, who leads him in their head-to-head but who takes 3 set matches to close out consistently. Fils's first serve is functioning at 80 per plus. Every break point is a serve plus forehand sequence off his new contact point. Ball in front. Aggressive, not late. The crowd is with him. The Paris crowd has been with him since he shirtlessly roared at them in 2025. That quarterfinal would not be a formality. It would be a referendum on whether the rebuilt version of Arthur Fils has arrived at the level he was always supposed to reach. The French are patient people, not for much longer. 22-5. That is Fils's win-loss record since returning from injury in February. Of those 22 wins, 13 have come against players ranked inside the top 30. His first serve percentage across the clay swing in 2026 sits measurably higher than his 2025 season average, a season in which he reached no. 14 in the world. His serve-related breakpoint save rate in Madrid is among the highest in the field this week, matching numbers typically posted by players ranked top 10 in serve statistics. Compare the trajectory to Richard Gasquet in 2009, a French player who rebuilt technique post-injury and broke into the top 10 within 18 months. Gasquet's rebuild took longer because the sport was slower and coaching resources were less sophisticated. Fils has Navy and 8 months of focused work. These are not random improvements. These are the fingerprints of a player entering the phase where physical talent meets technical intelligence. So here's my prediction, and I'm being specific. Arthur Fils reaches at least the quarterfinal of Roland Garros 2026. Not a feeling, not a hot take, a documented call. If his first serve percentage stays above 75% on the slower Paris clay, slower than Madrid, which he's handled without dropping a set, and if he avoids Sinner before the quarterfinal round, his draw management skills and Ivan Yevi's serve blueprint will carry him further than any Frenchman at their home major since Tsonga in 2012. The date on this prediction is April 30th, 2026. Come back and find me when Paris is done. In May 2025, Arthur Fils won a 5-set match at Roland Garros, took his shirt off, and screamed at the Paris crowd. The next day, he withdrew. Stress fracture. 8 months of silence. Everything that followed. The nutrition overhaul. The forehand rebuild. The serve restructure. Even Yevi on the phone twice a week from Croatia. The 6 months without touching. A racquet. All of it was in service of the moment he's now living. The 86% first serve number in Madrid. The 9-match winning streak. The semi-final against Sinner. You could cover this as a feel-good comeback. The algorithm will reward you for it. But that's not what this is. This is a 21-year-old who spent 8 months turning his body's failure into the blueprint for his ceiling. And if that happens, if he goes deep at Roland Garros on the serve Ivan Yevi built and the forehand he rebuilt himself, remember where you heard it first. Because we don't chase narratives here. We build them from the ground up.